Hey guys, thanks for dropping by the NFN Radio News Podcast, where we talk a little politics with a little lean to the left, and where we interview interesting guests who can add to our dialogue. Today we have with us John Thibault, author of the international bestseller, How to Change a Law. It's a simple do-it-yourself manual for voters and policy advocates who want to take political action and actually make change. That's a particularly timely and important topic, I think, given the political environment today, perhaps especially so, as so many states are trying to enact laws designed to make it tougher for many people to vote. John's the founder and CEO of Silicon Valley startup iLobby. He previously served in government affairs at MCA Universal and was the first VP of Business Development and Marketing at eBay, and the first VP of Marketing at Financial Engines. So welcome, John. Thanks for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about iLobby and about your latest book.
Yeah, great to be here with you. Thank you so much. It's an interesting topic. And I think, one of the things, I was speaking to someone recently, and I said, I sort of find it outrageous that people don't believe they can actually make change, and therefore they don't do anything. And I think a lot of us are interested in, quote, getting stuff done, but it comes to the point where as you start moving forward, and you probably know this from your experience working on Capitol Hill, it seems simple, but it's actually very complicated once you start working through the process of either trying to draft an initiative or move a law forward or work with your community to get something done. And even at, the local homeowners association or in your local town. So what I'm trying to do is just say, take away the complexity and let's figure out a way to make it simpler for people.
Well, that's good. Now, what does iLobby do?
Yeah, it's interesting. I started with the idea that to empower people, they needed to have a complete end-to-end solution. And a good comparison would be something like change.org or the petition sites, where people say, hey, look, I want to get something done. They draft a petition, they put it up, and then they hope that people come and sign it. And then they take those petitions, of course, and then in some cases, move it forward, or they boycott a company, or they send it to the representative. But the problem is you don't have authentication of the voter within the district. And I don't want to get too wonky about this, but you can only go to your representative in your district. So what I thought, well, what is the problem? And I kept looking at all the different problems that would happen. So with iLobby, I said, okay, look, you need to authenticate the voter in their district so they go to the right person. And then you have alignment between the individual voter and the representative on the issue that they want to get done. So that was part of it. So the idea is people do three things on iLobby. You actually clarify your issue. You have the opportunity to build a coalition. And then the third part is you appeal to a higher authority. And those three steps, regardless of what you're doing in this, quote, lawmaking space, those are the three things that you're going to be doing anyway.
So in other words, there's an app for changing a law.
Yeah, it's the app itself is more of a web-based front end on an iPhone. Right. But in reality, it's still web-based and it's on the internet. Yes.
Right. So people can go there and follow the steps and begin the process of actually getting something changed or done. And you've made it possible to line up individual people with their representatives in Congress by district, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's the end game. Yes.
Yeah. So they're talking to the right people,
right?
Once they get everything together and all of that. For the average person, do people need to contact their local political party? Do they need to make friends with politicians? Can they do these things on their own? Do they? You hear these things, well, I don't know anybody, or, the only people that make things happen are people who know people who know people.
Mm-hmm.
Can the average person actually make change?
Yeah, I actually believe they can. So I'm in Silicon Valley. There's a senator here who, over the last 10 years, he ran a contest where people who had an idea for a law or a bill could come forward, draft it, write up 200 or 300 words, and then submit it. And then what they did was he and his staff would look at it. They would end up moving it forward. He would sponsor the bill on the floor of the Senate. They might get a flag that had flown over the state capitol, and they would get some press notoriety. And a handful of these each year actually became laws. So he did constituent outreach. People submitted ideas, and I've spoken to him. His name was Senator Joe Simidian, and he said the ideas that came out of there were things that they never would have thought of themselves. So that's a sample of people actually getting stuff done. In our case, there are a handful of people who have initiatives that they put forward, or they drafted them, and they're in different stages. Some of them are not done yet, or they're not posted publicly. But there is one on the site now where the gentleman actually got 2 bills in Congress. Now he got them that far. He did everything right, but they're sitting in committee, and part of it has to do with they may not be as compelling an idea for the lawmakers as he would like to think that they are. This is the one that has to do with, it's like Italian-American reparation.
Okay.
iLobby.co, yeah. But he actually had it in the last Congress, and then he got them renewed. And part of how he did it was he pitched the idea to Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren in San Jose, California, and exactly what I said. She helped him draft from a rough series of paragraphs a 200 or 300 word statement, put it into bill, basically legislative language, then sponsored it on the House floor and introduced the bill. So we can't introduce bills. You actually do need a lawmaker to assist you with that.
Well, yeah, and further, you need to build support for what it is you're trying to accomplish, right?
Right.
And all of this has to be done as part of a overall campaign that, okay, maybe you start it, but you've got to have other people who are interested to provide the momentum, or to make so that the lawmaker that you reach out to feels like it's worth his while to do, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And that's what I said. The second part of this is you need to build a coalition.
Uh-huh.
If you are just writing one letter as an individual citizen or voter to your representative, then you are one of, and again, it depends on the district size, but generally it's 750,000 up to about 1 million. So you are one singular voice saying, hey, I have a great idea, please take mine. And in reality, again, at the federal level, it's more complex, but they're looking at over 10,000 bills per session. And in the past several years, they've only passed around 300 or 350. So you're talking 3% of the bills that they would look at move forward. And then, the lawmaker has the same problem. He or she may have something. They look at it, put it forward, introduce it. Then they try to get other co-sponsors to the bill to move it forward. And they try to get somebody on the committee to hear it and move it forward. So it's got to go through the committee structure first before it comes back to the main floor. And then obviously it's got to go into the other body, meaning, again, at the federal level, let's say you start with the House of Representatives, it's going to have to go over to the Senate.
I'm looking at your website now, iLobby.co, and it's showing a number of issues. Government issues, mistreatment of Italian Americans in World War II, right. Stop U.S. police from getting trained in Israel, cultivate unlimited marijuana plants in all legal states, make daylight savings time year-round, and so on. Underneath that, there's a percentage number, there's a dollar number, and days left number. Explain what that's all about.
Yeah. So when a person starts we call them debates. They start a debate. And again, it isn't just one person can author it, but other people can comment on it. So they decide when they begin, how long do I want this thing to run for? And ideally, you want it to run as long as possible. So we've suggested 90 days, 180 days, or 365, and then the clock would tick down. So as people look at that, they can come and vote on it, meaning that they would either support it and say, yes, I like that idea, or no, I don't think it's a very good idea. That would be the starting point. If you click and go into the actual debate, you'll see that there's a place for people to leave comments. And again, you are indicating your position by saying, yes, let's say you vote for something. You can actually then go in and leave a comment and say, oh, by the way, I want to refute what you said. You're wrong about this. And then you can put in some contrary information. So unlike Twitter, where you have a constant stream of information, it's just kind of all mushed together. Here, what we're trying to do is say, people are smart. They have good ideas. Allow them to debate the idea or whatever it is they want to get done prior to it going to a politician. So by the time it does two things. It builds the coalition because you have people coming in and commenting, but then it also allows you to say, hey, look, here's all my strong points and my arguments and my facts, but somebody else can come in and say, yes, but you forgot this or you're missing this. And the idea is that by having some level of dissent, you end up with a better argument to move the whole thing forward.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and it gives people an opportunity to have an intelligent debate over a controversial issue,
right,
pro and con,
right,
and to put their money up if they really want to see something happen. Now, I see a couple of these here. One, criminal justice reform, $110 have been pledged. That's 2% of what I guess the target is. So how does that work? Where does that money go? How's it used?
Yeah, so no money is being collected at this point. These are really proxy votes for an individual saying, if I could put some money into the game to make this happen, I would pledge X amount. Kind of like what you have with crowdfunding. Initially, I had that turned on thinking, okay, well, if there was enough people who came in, and here's an example that I've used. I said, if you had 20,000 people, you need a lot of people to make this work. But if you had 20,000 people and everybody put in $50, you would have raised $1 million. And with that $1 million, you could effectively hire any lobbying firm or government affairs firm in DC tomorrow. And that's really the key, to empower individuals to understand that by coming together collectively around a single issue, they could actually move the needle and get something done. They don't do that now because we think, oh, well, all we can do is give money to a politician for their campaign. And so this is not what that's about. This is about saying, hey, you do have to put some money in unless you want to do all the work yourself. And if you do put a small amount in, that can be used, again, to hire professionals. Just no different than if you were going to hire an accountant or a lawyer to represent you on a complex issue.
It's really pledging for funding that may be collected in the future. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's not going to get collected now, and it's not going to get collected until you have a mass of people who say, yes, I really want to do it. But the idea is it's acting as a proxy. And I say that because in our early testing, when we played with this, I asked people, I said, if you could get a law done, how much would you be willing to pay? Mm-hmm. And I had people going from anywhere from like, wow, I'd pay $50 a month, or I'd pay $200 a year, or whatever it was, if I could really get something done. So the idea was, let's just test that. And again, this is a very early stage. Let's test the idea and see if people would even do that. And again, no money is being collected. It's just it's like an indicator saying, I might do something.
Well, let me ask you this. Georgia just passed, as everybody knows, Georgia just passed this law that that even big businesses are upset about, restricting voting in reaction to the election and the fact that Trump lost the state and Republicans lost the Senate, 2 seats in Georgia. So they decided to pass this law. Now, what if somebody wanted to change that law?
That's the idea.
What would they do?
Well, I'm not familiar with all the details, but there's a couple things to think about. Is it easier to change a law, pass a new law, or stop something from happening? And in reality, because we're so averse to pain, it's actually easier to stop things. And that's why you see boycotts or whatever. Just stop this company from doing this thing. Right. It's really hard to start a new initiative and then move it forward. So in the case of changing a law where, particularly, again, you're talking mostly at the state or federal level, it gets complicated and you need a lot of support to make it work. So in some respects, this would work in a more simple and quicker way at the local level.
Ah, I see. Okay. South Carolina, where I live, a lot of new homes are being built here in Myrtle Beach. It's called Carolina Forest. It should be called Carolina Concrete. The forest is being wiped away for shopping centers, new homes, storage facilities, and there doesn't seem to be much in the way of planning or control.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just say I want to stop the building of a hospital that they want to put in 2 miles from my house, where they're going to knock down a bunch of trees and they're going to build this hospital. They're going to have helicopters coming in. And people are all upset.
Yeah.
How can they use this platform to affect that? Zoning has to be changed, and then the county council has to approve what the zoning commission decides on.
We have to pause here for a message, but then John will use this real-life example to make public policy change with the help of iLobby. So stay with us.
Yeah, so at the local level, what you want to do is you want to get really, I wouldn't do 2 or 3 or 4 different things, Part of it is, when I say you need to clarify your issue, you pick one thing that you're really passionate about and say, look, I want to get this done. If I break it down, the structure that you're going to go through is you're going to identify your issue, then your position. So you've already indicated it has to do with zoning and you want to stop this thing from happening. So we know that where you are with that.
Right.
Then you're going to put together what your facts and arguments are to support your position, just like you would with a real debate, right? Mm-hmm. And you're saying, here's how this is going to impact us. And this is one of the questions that we ask when you build a debate. How is it going to impact? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? What's going to happen? And what you're doing is you're forecasting, saying, let me tell you why this is a bad thing, because it's going to do A, B, C, D, and E, right? And then you list that.
Right.
But what I recommend too is that people also say, if you take the pro-development side, then you come off, I think, as more intelligent. So instead of just saying, stop building, you say, look, here's the reasons we want to stop. The cost is high. The impact on the environment is high. And you come up with all these logical things, right? And it's going to hurt the kids in the schools and the people in the community, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And then the nice thing is if you have your own rebuttal, which is equal to what the other guy would say, they might say, hey, it's good for commerce. It's going to grow the town. It's going to grow the tax base. We're going to have more jobs. I mean, you got to be thinking both sides, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So you would include that. You'd say, dear zoning commission member, this is what I want to get done. This is why I want to stop it. Here's the reasons why. Now, the other guy will say, it's a good idea because of blah, blah, blah. And what you're doing is you're weakening his argument by saying that. Because you're saying, I'm already aware of what he's going to counter my position with, what my arguments are. Right. But let me tell you, and this is the next part I think is really interesting. If you can come in with an emotional story, so I talk about having the issue, your position, the facts, the arguments, and then a story where you say, you know what, let me tell you this, and you see this all the time at State of the Union. Let me tell you the story of Mary Smith. She lives in the community. She's 90 years old. She has to cross the street and she got hit by a car or whatever. You're talking about a personal, so you're hitting the intellectual side and the emotional side. Right. And when you do that, you end up coming in a much stronger position. And the idea is you build this debate on the site or you fill all this information in, and it's not a lot. It could be 300 words or 400 words, but you fill that all in and then it's posted on the site. Now you have the ability to share it, okay? You can share it with the council members through their Twitter accounts. You can share it on Facebook. You can share it with your community. You don't have to send out an email to all your friends and then they don't know what to do. You're saying, hey, look, read this thing. And if you agree, just come and vote. If you have comments, feel free to, it's like an open comment period when you go to your town council meeting, right? They give you 3 minutes to talk. Here, you can come in and leave a comment, or you can link in other information by putting in links in as well. So it gives you a platform to build your whole case. When you're done, if you enlist the media or you enlist the lawmakers or all these other people, you're coming across as an intelligent, citizen advocate or citizen legislator, if you will, who is concerned about your community, what you want to get done, et cetera. And then the final part of this is you say to the zoning commission or the local mayor or whomever is going to have the authority on this, say, our ask, they expect you to ask for something. Our ask is that we would like you to vote against this particular thing, or we would like to delay it for some period of time, or we would like you, if you're going to build it, we'd like you to move it a mile down the road, whatever it is. And now what you've done is you've presented the problem. You've shown that you have support. You have a community behind you. You've debated it back and forth. So it isn't just you coming up with your own idea, right? And at the end, you say, and I actually have a solution. So you're coming to them with a full package at the very end of this. That's really the idea. Otherwise, if you just say, hey, Mr. Mayor, why don't you just stop doing this? He's got to think through, like, well, what are the, and that's what he's going to ask you.
Yeah.
What are the arguments? How do I do it? Where do I go? How do I counter this? You're giving him a whole sort of policy package. That's what you're doing.
Okay. So iLobby allows you to do all of this in a convenient, effective way, provides a link that you can use to share the information via social media and to any officials that you want to share it with, right?
Yeah. I mean, It's easy. They all have Twitter accounts now,
right,
and you can share it with them. So legislative director at one of the offices or someone on a committee, they're going to see it if you are doing that. And again, if you get some press notoriety, that's going to help.
Yeah. How long has this been up, this iLobby?
Several years. And then,
okay.
Yeah, I had an interesting thing because I had ilobby.co as a URL. Right. And another company in Toronto had ilobby.com. So once they started promoting their thing, we got very little traffic. That's when I wrote the book to explain what we're doing. Okay. And they're very different. It's actually a building management service, for lobbies in buildings, right?
Right.
Where, you sign in digitally.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Where are you located, John?
I'm in Silicon Valley. So.
Oh, that's right. You said, California. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. Well, this is very interesting. You want to talk a little bit about your book or other projects you have going on or whatever?
Yeah. No, that's totally fine. I said I started with the website, but I think people found it too complex. Again, if you're not familiar with the steps you go through.
Right.
And what I was trying to do was when I worked, it was MCA Universal Studios. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I worked in the entertainment industry, and we dealt with senators and congressmen and heads of state and all these people. Right. And this is kind of the steps that we went through. And I thought, who knows this stuff, Right. I was 35 or something at the time, and thought, nobody knows this stuff. I should just explain it to them down the road, which is what I had intended to do. So I found I was repeating myself over and over again, explaining the site. People still didn't get it, or they didn't take action. Right. So I ended up writing the book, How to Change the Law.
Right.
And in here, there's a section, some people have said, it's too much, but whatever. Right. There's a section in here in chapter 7 where it takes you through step by step. And what's interesting is a woman recently in San Diego contacted me and said, hey, I'm a fan of yours. And I read the book and I totally get it. And I have a problem with elder abuse, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm actually working with her right now, sort of as a case study, because it's so powerful. And you're talking about, elder folks who might end up in homes, or young women or younger men who end up marrying them, and then they push the children out of the picture. And it's a great example of having a good guy, the family that wants to protect the senior person, the bad guys, sort of the predatory marriage folks who are doing bad things, and then the victim, who is perhaps the person has Alzheimer, but they've got a pretty big estate, and this other person takes control of it. So that actually is a a debate that we have finished, and we're ready to push that out. So that should be up in the next few days.
Okay, good. That's great.
Yeah, and I was happy to do it with her, because she understood what we were doing. She has media attention from San Diego. It's been in NBC News. There's a lot of groups who are really looking at the issue of, it wasn't something I knew a lot about.
Right.
But they're looking at the whole elder abuse issue, saying, oh my God, there's these laws that are on the books in some states, but not others. So for instance, in New York, there's the Peter Falk law, the guy who used to be Columbo. And it has to do with this same issue. And Casey Kasem, the old radio guy, same thing.
Right.
So it's fascinating.
Did Peter Falk have Alzheimer's?
I don't know what exactly he had, but he did have an issue with the either predatory marriage or undue influence affecting him and his estate. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so New York made it a law. They said, I know what it was. They said when he passed, the guardian, who was the new wife, I believe, did not tell the children he died. Oh. And so they weren't invited to the funeral. They didn't even know about it.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And so the law was, I think it's very narrow and very specific, but it was like, hey, if there are children or family members when this person passes, you must notify them. So you think about how narrow and simple that is, right?
Exactly.
But these people were crushed. Your own children, couldn't go. So
right. And it's amazing to me that there needs to be a book published independently about how to change a law. This is stuff that you should learn in school. Yeah. I guess they're not teaching civics in school anymore. Is that right?
That's what I've heard. Yeah. It used to be in the 9th grade.
Yeah. It struck me when all these protesters came to Capitol Hill on January the 6th and broke into the place with the idea that they could get Vice President Pence to change the election. Where did they get that idea? I know Trump said it and all that, but where did they, didn't they have an understanding about how the election works, and that how the Congress works, and that once the election is decided, it's decided?
Yeah. See, I think that a lot of people don't understand all the rules and the backroom things that happen. And it isn't as though they're hidden. They're completely out there. Yeah. So what you're referring to is the Electoral College. Yeah. And it's complicated because it was set up, when the Constitution was written and how it was going to work. Yeah. But we don't know about that, And so they think, I'm just going to, it's almost like a dictatorship. They think if I get one guy, he'll make that law or he'll change that thing. Well, unfortunately, this is not China or Iran, right? So we have this democratic republic or constitutional republic where we go to our representative and we do this. So I'm not advocating direct democracy as they might have in Switzerland or somewhere else. What I'm advocating is that people just get clearer, much more clear about what they want to get done. And as I said, build a coalition of people who support you, figure out all the implications of what you're trying to get done. And then the last term I used at the beginning of this was appeal to a higher authority, meaning you're not going to go in and threaten them. And I'm seeing that now with Portland and some of these other cities where they're actually going in and intimidating the families of lawmakers, right? That's like, it's not the right way to do this.
Oh, it isn't going to work.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, John. Well, listen, I thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, I think that's it. I just really appreciate you having me on. And again, the website is ilobby.co, or people can also go to changealaw.com, and that will lead you to some other things.
Excellent. And the book is available on Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon and in Audible, Kindle, every version. But it's actually everywhere, Barnes & Noble, etc. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So, hey guys, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. And my thanks to John Thibault for joining us today. It'd be great if you'd follow NFN Radio News so you don't miss an episode. Just look for NFN Radio News at Spreaker.com and click on my picture.
Check out notfakenews.biz too, where you'll find new material just about every day by some excellent writers with perspectives on a whole range of topics. You can sign up as a member at notfakenews.biz. And of course, it's all free. Also, let your friends know about this podcast and about notfakenews.biz. Our goal is to be informative and entertaining as we comment on the latest developments in the news with just a little lean to the left. So thanks for listening. This is Bob Gaddy signing off for NFN Radio News and notfakenews.biz.